ground, be able to put all of their body weight into the strikes, whether they want to or not. But what the interesting thing that we found over the years, when we started doing this in the special operations community and then law enforcement community, we had, when people were educated in, justified lethal force, when they're actually told at that level, there's very little training at the level of kill or be killed. And what I mean by that is, we will talk about every other level of the force continuum where, you control somebody, you give them this hold, you do that. But a guy that truly is going after you and trying to kill you, maybe grabbing your weapon or trying to do, real grievous bodily harm to you, there's very little training on how to deal with that. Normally, what they'll tell you is just do whatever it takes, which I think is just a horrible answer. And so what we do is we start there. If I start somebody at justified lethal force and I show them what trauma of the human body actually does, here's the result. People are actually less likely to ever abuse the situation unless warranted. What we found was the police officers that we trained, when they were trained with the justified lethal force, there were less incidences of excessive use of force down the line because they had a gross understanding of what happens to the body, when you do things. Once you inherently know that, hey, if I do this, here's the potential damage I can do, and it's not warranted, you won't do it. Whereas if your life is on the line, concurrently, because you know what that'll do, that particular strike could probably save your life.
Sure, let's say somebody has attacked you, they've tackled you, whether you're a citizen, police officer, whatever, you beat them off of you, they keep coming. At a point, you've got to make the decision, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this guy out because they're not stopping.
Yeah. The majority of, on the civilian side, the majority of the civilians that we've trained over the past 20 years, what we talk about is taking a human being to non-functional, meaning in the threats that we're talking about, asocial violence, where it happens to you, you don't have choice. Meaning there's no exit. You've tried to negotiate. You can't. It's happening. The guy is stabbing at you. He's coming at you at that point where if you do not take action, you are, as Mike Murphy, the CSI coroner out here in Vegas, told me. He said, Tim, if you don't take action, all you're going to do is be able to help me solve your murder. He said, make sure that you're showing these people how to take decisive action and get real injury on the human body. He goes, because the survivors get to talk to the cops. He said, everybody else comes to me, and all I can do is solve your murder. And I take that to heart, of really defining that area. Now, what's great about that is that's a very rare occasion when you would ever be justified to use that type of information. And what, the greater part of my training really revolves around is letting everybody know all the avoidable stuff that they don't have to respond physically to. They don't have to respond in a violent way where it can end up where you don't want it to go. You get in an argument with a guy, you go back and forth, you end up, pushing each other. You say, screw this. You hit the guy in the face. He falls over, brains himself. And now you're facing manslaughter charges over the fact that he was grabbing your bar stool. It doesn't hit the three-day test. Whereas you're at Virginia Tech, the shooter's going for a reload. You cruise over there, you hit him to the head, you brain him on the concrete, and you kill him. Guess what? That's justified.
Now you're a hero.
Yes, but it's all with education, Alex. And where I get into trouble is people don't. What they'll do is I'll say, hey, I gave a demonstration a couple of years ago for the Sun newspaper in the UK, sent a group over. And I was showing them a typical strike set that's shown in the martial arts. It was just 4 strikes. And I showed that doing the strikes, here's how they go. And everybody's, oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. And I go, great. It's really cool. Then I systemically showed them that those strikes, what they were doing to the human body, and that by doing it that way, it was a guaranteed kill. And everybody was shocked. It went from being a really cool technique to, oh my God. And they were simple strikes to do. And I was sitting there saying, without the education of the trauma, you inadvertently could do something stupid that's not justified for the situation. So my whole thing was education and self-defense, saying we got to do this. You know what the Sun did with that? They took the headline and they said, I can kill you in 4 moves. And that's what they ran with that. And then they also took liberty and they decided, we don't really like his background, so we're going to call him a former Navy SEAL, even though, I blew my ears a couple of weeks before graduation and I had to switch over to the intelligence community. My whole story of my background and the reason I'm so interested.
We even got that wrong until you pointed it out, because every newspaper says you're a former Navy SEAL, and then I bet you get accused of saying you were one when you weren't.
What's so funny is I worked only in the community. I was an intelligence officer. I worked for Admiral Lemoyne back in the 80s. I worked directly for the highest SEAL command. My whole career was in special warfare, but it was as an intelligence officer. All my friends know this. I wouldn't be training if I was some guy going around pretending to be something I'm not, there's no way I'd have the career. But I'll tell you, the press is just amazing. Trying to get that retracted has been a nightmare. And the problem is it goes around. But the whole story, the reason it's so funny is because when I blew my ears, my eardrum got blown underwater and my semicircular canals ended out. An injury to my inner ear ended my career. No matter how much I willed it, no matter how much I wanted to overcome it, no matter how much personal, fortitude I put in.
The body is delicate. The body's delicate.
An injury, And that's what my whole thing is. And so the thing is, if you try to go out there and you try to be sane and socialized and say, hey, listen, there is absolutely a time when the only answer is violence, then you're going to be vilified as promoting violence. You're going to be vilified as somebody who's out there, as they said, promoting vigilantism and all this other ridiculous stuff, rather than looking at what a citizen is facing out there these days, especially citizens of the UK. As you said, you've got a lot of Eastern Europeans coming in. Knife culture is huge there. Stuff they were never facing. I went to university in 86 over there. I went to the University of London on an exchange program. It was unthinkable, some of the crimes that are now readily happening in London these days. And yet the authorities are still acting like, you as a citizen do not respond. You were, even brandishing something. There was a young mother who had a couple of kids jump over into her lot. Her place has been broken into. Now, she didn't actually even use the butcher knife. She just was in her kitchen window. She showed the butcher knife, scared out of her death. She has her infant upstairs, and the two teenage guys looked at her kind of menacingly, and then they just left. They jumped. They felt, I'm not going to deal with this. She's got a knife. She calls the cops, scared out of her mind. They come over. When she tells them the story, they're debating on whether or not they have to arrest her. And they chastise her. And because she was on a reality TV show over there, they decided not to. But they were more concerned, rather than the threat she was facing, they were far more concerned that she might actually try to protect herself. And it's asinine.
But look at the crime statistics. If you look at areas like Chicago or New York, where they have basically a total gun ban, they have the highest crime rates and homicide rates. And then take somewhere like Texas or Vermont, even around the big cities, there's much lower home invasion rate because people know half the houses you go into, if you go in there when somebody's there, they're going to shoot you. I mean, it's really simple.
Listen, Alex, here's the bottom line. The bottom line is each one of us as human beings possesses the greatest concealed carry that nobody can control, and that's your mind. We cannot outlaw intent. What we do is we make the mistake. We make the mistake of thinking by outlawing tools, we have outlawed all weapons. We all possessed one weapon, and I'm not being dramatic here. Our weapon is the human brain. The human brain has done everything from, create the space shuttle to create nuclear war, nuclear weapons. It's just that creative. We are not the top species on Earth because we are bigger, faster, and stronger. And I tell people all the time, if anybody thinks that, you just tell me who wants to get in a 10 by 10 cage with a 45-pound mountain lion that hasn't eaten in 3 days. We are not. We are dangerous, and we are also brilliant because we have this mind. And we cannot outlaw intent. If somebody wants to do harm to you, they will find a way to do it. And all you have to do is look at the prison population. If you study how the prisoners use violence as a tool, you'll see just how ingenious the human mind is when it wants to be.
Yeah, and if they would just put that intent into working and ideas and sales, they'd be living in $1 million house instead of in a hellish prison.
But that's it. That's just it, Alex. The people that are doing that are people that we want to protect. The guys, the great people that are taking the human mind and using it for the best to improve society, we're also the ones most at risk. And we're not allowed. We are told that if we look at the tool of violence, if we study the tool of violence, we will become one of them. We'll be a bad guy. It's the biggest sham that's out there.
But I feel incredibly secure. A lot of radio hosts get threatened. People do stuff. They shoot them. Not me. I got a gun in my car. I know how to use it. I've got one here in my studio and a little instant access pistol safe. And it's not even a big deal. It's like I got a pen over here if I need to write. I've got video cameras. I've got a microphone. And it's just there in the one chance out of 5,000 that somebody ever came in here and tried to do something. And for so many people, that is a shocking idea that I would defend myself. That's alien to them, and that shows this attempt to fully domesticate us.
But that's the same thing. What I try to tell people all the time, I go, what you're acting. You know, people like to believe the world is a certain way rather than the way it is. And the thing is, if you accept the world for the way it is, then you do certain things. And most people do it in their daily lives, meaning most people have a fire extinguisher in their house. Now, does that mean they're paranoid about fire? Does that mean that they're constantly thinking about it, that they're just ridiculous for having it there? No, because they're saying worst case scenario, I have a plan of action. I do everything to make sure that, you know, my house is not going to catch fire. I do all the normal things, make sure that I take care of everything. I don't have bad electricity or bad wiring, all those things. But you know what? I'm still going to have this fire extinguisher, even though it's going to be really rare that I would ever have to use it. But if you take that same approach to your self-protection or your self-defense, you are shown, you know, that you're a bad person. And what I try to tell people all the time is I give an analogy. I say, listen, Let's take a look at this. A door gets kicked in. There's a young woman, you know, in her kitchen. Baby's upstairs. Guy attacks her. You know, he's strangling her. He's trying to attack her, trying to sexually assault her. She sees the butcher's knife, and she reaches back for that butcher's knife, and she's successful. She plunges it in the side of the neck, and she's able to defeat this guy. She actually ends up killing him. Okay. We as society would look at that situation and we'd say she needs to be protected to the full extent of the law. She needs to be lauded for what she did. She did everything she could do to protect the baby. You know, and we all hope that that's going to be the case. Now let's look at that same thing. Kicks the door open again, comes through. This time they're in the epic struggle. She tries to reach for that butcher's knife. He sees it. He's angry because he's not getting what he wants. He grabs the butcher's knife. He plunges it into the side of the neck, killing her. You know, murdering her. Now, we all agree that in that situation, that was a heinous murder, completely unjustified. This guy should face, you know, life imprisonment, if not the death penalty, if that's available. But bottom line, he should never see the light of day in society again. What I try to tell people is, listen, folks, what I need you to understand is the knife to the side of the neck worked in both instances, whether it was the good guy or the bad guy using it. It does not make you bad to study this. You need to study this because you need to know it works if your life is ever on the line. How you use the information will determine whether or not it was justified. But I'm not worried about the sane socialized humans that I train because the predators don't need me. They don't need me. They already know how to do this kind of stuff. They may not have the technical knowledge I have, but they have boatloads of intent and they have no need for seeking me out. What I try to do is I try to get through to people like my clients in the UK that say, hey, listen, folks, it's okay to look at this stuff. It doesn't make you one of them. And guess what? They don't want you to look at this stuff because it'll put you on par with them if they ever threaten you.
Very well said. Final segment with our guest. Amazing interview. And the conclusion of it straight ahead. The website is targetfocustraining.com. Tim Larken is our guest. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Stay with us. I'm going to say something here publicly that I'm ashamed of, just so that I'll mark this point. The 14th day of May, 2012, on this Monday edition. I have a son and I have two daughters. And the daughters are smaller. You know, my son is almost 10. My daughters are younger. And I find myself taking him shooting, taking him hunting, you know, teaching him basic self-defense, and I catch myself with my daughters, the ones that are really going to need it, I'm not teaching them any of it. I mean, I've done some shooting with a 7-year-old, and she doesn't like it as much. That, you know, that's part of the role, but I think of this, of people that they send their daughters off to college without any self-defense, without knowing how to use a gun, any of it, and that it's bad to want women to know how to fight or how to use a gun. You know, the feminists just want to teach women how to hate men, the mainline feminist, because it's another form of enslavement. What do you say to that, Tim? Again, Tim Larken, trainer of